The gravel road ended without warning. Dust rose slowly and clung to the warm night air. The abandoned house stood alone beneath the pale Texas moon. Its wooden walls sagged as if exhausted by time. The windows looked like dark, empty eyes watching my arrival. Cicadas screamed from the fields, sharp and relentless. My flashlight trembled slightly in my hand. The air smelled of dry earth, rusted metal, and something sour. I stepped onto the porch. The wood groaned beneath my weight. That sound echoed too long in the silence. A chill slid across my neck despite the heat. I reached for the door handle. The metal felt colder than the night should allow. When the door opened, it screamed louder than the insects. The sound cut through my chest like a blade. Inside, darkness pressed in from every direction. The air felt thick, heavy, almost wet against my skin. Dust floated through the beam of my flashlight like slow snow. Each step stirred memories that did not belong to me. The floorboards shifted as if breathing. My heartbeat matched their rhythm. A faint smell of old fabric and decay filled my lungs. The walls were stained with long, dark streaks. I brushed one with my fingers. The surface felt sticky and uneven. I pulled my hand back quickly. The house seemed to listen. Silence settled, deep and suffocating. Then a sound whispered from above. It was soft at first. A low, broken sob. My stomach tightened instantly. The sound carried pain. It carried fear. It carried something unfinished. I aimed the flashlight toward the staircase. The steps rose into darkness like a throat-swallowing light. Another sob drifted down, longer this time, closer. My mouth felt dry. The air tasted metallic. I placed one foot on the first step. The wood creaked sharply. The crying stopped. That sudden silence felt worse than the sound. I waited, barely breathing. A cold draft slid past my legs. It smelled of mold and old rain. The second step cracked under my weight. A whisper brushed my ear. It spoke my name. My chest tightened painfully. The voice sounded wet and strained, as if spoken through water. I spun around. The hallway stood empty. The walls seemed closer now. The flashlight flickered once, then steadied. From above, the crying returned. Louder, more desperate. It rose and fell like someone drowning. My legs felt heavy, yet they moved. Step by step, I climbed. Each creak echoed like a warning. The temperature dropped with every step. My breath became visible in thin clouds. At the top, the hallway stretched long and narrow. Doors lined both sides, all of them closed. The crying seeped from the last door on the left. The sound clawed at my nerves. My hand hovered inches from the knob. The crying stopped again. Something scraped softly on the other side of the door. Slow, deliberate. The knob turned from within. The door began to open. The door opened just enough to reveal darkness thicker than the hall behind me. A cold breath rushed out and wrapped around my face. It smelled of damp wood, old tears, and something long buried. My flashlight beam slipped inside. The light trembled across peeling wallpaper. The crying returned suddenly. It came from the corners of the room. From the ceiling. From the floor beneath my feet. My skin prickled as if touched by invisible fingers. I stepped forward. The door slammed shut behind me. The sound exploded through the house. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The crying stopped all at once. Silence crushed my ears. I turned slowly. The door had vanished. Only a solid wall remained. My chest burned with panic. The flashlight flickered violently. Shadows jumped and twisted across the walls. Then the light died completely. Darkness swallowed me whole. In that darkness, I heard breathing. Not mine. It came from inches away. Slow, wet, painfully close. I held my breath. The breathing copied me. When I inhaled, it inhaled. When I stopped, it stopped. A finger brushed my wrist. Ice cold. I jerked back and struck the wall. The impact knocked the air from my lungs. A whisper crawled along my spine. It begged. It pleaded. The words tangled together like sobs. The crying returned, louder than before. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, the room had changed. Moonlight poured through a cracked window. The walls were cleaner now. The air felt warmer. A bed sat in the center of the room. Someone lay beneath a thin blanket. The crying came from the bed. I stepped closer. My footsteps sounded wrong. Too loud. Too hollow. The blanket shifted. A small hand emerged. It trembled weakly. The crying broke into sharp gasps. I reached out without thinking. The moment my fingers touched the hand, the room shattered. The walls rotted instantly. Paint peeled away like burned skin. The bed collapsed into dust. The hand tightened around mine. Its grip felt unnaturally strong. I tried to pull away. The floor dropped beneath me. I fell hard. The air rushed from my lungs again. My flashlight clattered across the floor and flickered back to life. I lay in a narrow hallway. This hallway was not upstairs. The ceiling pressed low. The walls leaned inward. The crying echoed all around me. It sounded older now, angrier. I pushed myself up. My legs shook violently. Handprints covered the walls. Some were small. Some were large. All of them stretched downward, as if dragged. The crying turned into screaming. A door at the end of the hallway burst open. Light spilled out, harsh and white. A figure stood inside the room. Tall, twisted. Its head hung at an unnatural angle. Its mouth opened far too wide. The screaming poured from it like smoke. My ears rang painfully. Blood trickled warm down my neck. I stumbled backward. The hallway stretched longer with each step. The walls pulsed like something alive. The figure began to move. Its joints cracked loudly with every step. The screaming changed. It became laughter. Broken. Mocking. My back hit another door. The handle burned against my palm. I forced it open and fell inside. The room smelled of gasoline and rot. Old furniture lay overturned. Family photographs littered the floor. Every face had been scratched out. The flashlight beam froze on one photo still intact. It showed the house. New. Bright. A family stood on the porch. A man, a woman, and a child. The child stared directly into the camera. Its eyes were wrong. Too dark. Too knowing. The laughter echoed behind me. The door slammed shut again. The photographs began to bleed. Dark liquid pooled across the floor. The walls started to weep. Drops fell steadily like rain. The crying returned. Not from one voice. From many. Children. Women. Men. All layered together in agony. The floor grew slick beneath my boots. I struggled to stay standing. The flashlight flickered once more. In that brief flash, the room filled with figures. They stood pressed against the walls. Their faces twisted with sorrow and rage. Their mouths opened in silent screams. Every eye turned toward me. They leaned forward as one. The house groaned deeply. The sound came from its foundation. From its bones. The crying reached a deafening pitch. The figures stepped closer. Their shadows stretched across the floor. Cold hands grabbed my arms. My legs. My throat. The air vanished from my lungs. The flashlight fell again. Darkness closed in, and from deep within the house, something whispered softly. It thanked me for coming. The pressure around my body slowly loosened. The cold hands released the grip. Air returned to my lungs in sharp, burning breaths. The crying faded into distant echoes. The darkness softened. A faint light appeared beneath my closed eyelids. When I opened my eyes, the room stood empty. The walls no longer bled. The figures were gone. The house felt still, tired, as if it had spoken its final truth. My flashlight lay beside me, glowing weakly. I picked it up with trembling hands. The beam showed a clear path forward. No doors slammed. No whispers followed. I walked slowly through the hallway. Each step felt lighter than the last. The front door stood open. Moonlight poured across the porch like mercy. I stepped outside. The night air felt warm again. Crickets sang calmly in the fields. When I turned back, the house looked ordinary. Silent. Empty. As if it had never suffered. The crying did not return. I walked down the gravel road without looking back. Behind me, the abandoned house stood at rest. Its secrets released. Its pain finally heard.